For tonight's ending, we are going to talk a little bit about Western tack, different types of Western tack, and then we're going to finish by showing you guys how to put the girth on a Western horse and how that is different from the way that we have shown you how to do it in English. So we're going to start by looking at the bridles. So we're going to show you two of them. Right now, the red one that I'm holding, I want you to first notice how long the reins are, okay? So if we're riding in an English bridle, the reins are not nearly this long, all right? Whenever you have a Western bridle, you're always going to see these long reins. Now, typically on the ends, they won't be permanently attached like these are, but here at CTR, we have them attached. You'll have two separate reins that you're using. I also want especially for us to notice how the bit looks different. So when we have a Western bit, you're going to notice that the cheek piece, as we would say in English, is a lot longer. Okay? These can be either straight or curved. The more straight that they are and the longer that they are, the more intense they'll be on the horse's mouth. Now see how this here is not silver like on the sides. This is brass. No, copper, sorry. I know my metals secretly, deep down inside. So this is sweeter for the horse. It's a nice thin bit, only one break in the middle, as opposed to this bridle, which I love how simple our Western bridles can be. Look at how few straps are on this. So this bit does not have a breaking point in the middle. It is rubber, so it's a very gentle bit. It has a very short side, so it's not going to be very aggressive. And then it only has a spot for one ear. So if you were to put this on the horse, it would be the bit in the mouth, and you can put it over either the left ear or the right ear. And that's all that the horse needs. So with these kind of bits, we are applying pressure differently in the horse's mouth. So that's part of the reason that the steering and the starting and the stopping of the horse is all different. We're applying pressure at the pole with these bridles. So that's up top between the ears. So when you're pulling on these bits, it's not the same in English when it's very direct. The movement's happening down here. So we're riding on a loose rein. We're not having a tight contact like we would if we were English riding, because the bits are functioning differently than they would in an English bridle. So I have on either side of me two saddles. Over here we have an endurance saddle. Move this off the top. So up front at the pommel, there is not a horn. So the horn is that extra extension of leather that you'll see in the front. They have a nice deep seat. So you're sitting all the way back here in the saddle. So endurance saddles are meant for endurance. You're going to be up in 2-point a lot in these saddles. They're for you to be riding in for longer periods of time. So they're very comfortable. The seats are nice and cushioned. I've always loved that about these saddles. But when you're looking at the saddles and you're just trying to figure out if it's Western or English, a Western saddle or an endurance saddle, one of the easiest ways is to look and see if it has the horn. Now over here, we're gonna turn around. We have the Western saddle that I rode Tilly in today. So up in the front it has the horn. Now the horns can actually be different. So they can be thinner or thicker, and they can be taller or shorter. Depending on the horn will depend on what kind of work you're doing in that saddle, which also includes up here in the pommel. So the shape of the pommel in a Western saddle will also depend on the kind of work that you're doing in the saddle. So it can have a very high, sharp angle, or it can be low and rounded, depending on whether or not you need to be held into that saddle or you need to slide out of the saddle quickly. So this particular saddle has lovely designs all throughout the leather, which is another common trait of the Western saddle. And you'll notice it has all these extra little pieces of leather on it.
Latigos.
So why are these here, right? They're called latigos, as our camera woman said. These are helpful because they can attach different things to the saddle. So whether you're having a saddle bag or you're just tying anything on, you want to have lots of space to attach stuff to the saddle. If you think about the purpose of these saddles, if you're out for multiple days, riding your horses, working with cattle, you need to be able to pack things with you, and they need to be able to be attached. So the Western saddles are going to have a lot of space for attachment on the saddles. Now this one doesn't have a particularly deep seat. You'll notice that the front of the pommel is a lot higher than the back of the cantle. Another difference between the saddles as well is how far back the back of a Western saddle comes. So it's reaching almost all the way back to the horse's kidneys with these saddles. Our stirrups are also different. They change the angle of your foot ever so slightly as you're in the saddle. But this is one of our Western saddles that we have that we wanted to show you tonight. This is what our saddle pad for Western riding could look like. It has awesome patterns on it. It's going to be rectangular in shape, and it's very, very thick. So if I turn it to face you, you can see this is a lot thicker than the English pads that we ride with. So if I were to put this on Tilly over here behind me, and if we can walk Tilly a little bit forward. Hi, Tilly. When I put this on Tilly, I'm going to look for these specific markings on the saddle pad. So with an English saddle pad, when we're putting it on, we're making sure, Tilly's doing her classic shake. When we put it on, we're making sure that the straps are in the front and facing up. But for the Western pad, we're making sure that this padding is up and facing the front. So I'm gonna show you how we cinch on. She's just gonna shake that all the way off her. I'm gonna show you how we cinch up a Western saddle, but I'm gonna use the endurance saddle. And Tilly is going to help communicate to us her feelings as we put on the saddle. So you guys get to practice watching the horse and what she's trying to tell me as I put the saddle on her. So first I'm gonna have to move the pad back because she keeps shaking it off. You can already see her ears are back on me, her head's coming up a little bit, she's giving me a side eye. Now these saddles are a lot heavier than our English saddles, so when we put them on, you need to have some upper body strength so that you're not throwing and dropping it onto your horse's back. Because again, these can extend all the way from the shoulders back towards the kidneys. So when I lift this, I'm gonna make sure that I know where the other stirrup is, so it's not getting caught underneath of the saddle. Some people will even pick it up and hold it over as they put the saddle on, which is one of the easier ways to do it. So as I hoist it up with my weak arms, I'm putting it gently on her back. I'm making sure that everything's out of the way. And again, she's shaking everything back. So we're gonna move it back into place on her. And you can see again, head is still up, ears are still back at me. She is not sure if she likes what's going on. So I want to make sure that it's centered on her. Now I have not attached this yet. So we're going to go back around the other side because we attach it differently depending on what side of the horse we're on. So on the off side, I'm going to fix my latigos. And this first. Okay, there we go. So on this side, you can see there's just this piece of leather hanging down. So this cinch in the front, I'm just attaching like this. It's very basic. I'm trying to put the buckle through. There we go. And she's still shaking this all over the place. Okay, Tilly. She's not a fan of this right now. She's communicating loud and clear. We hear you. So we're going to go back around, and this side's going to be a little bit different. So that side I buckled on, and this side we're going to tie on. So you'll notice I have a very different strap over here. So this isn't leather, it's a lot longer. I'm gonna reach under to grab this. I'm gonna first I'm gonna untwist this. Oh, you see Tilly's communicating. She's not a fan of being girthed up. So whenever we are applying pressure on the horse's sternum, we want to make sure that we're watching the horse, that if someone's holding the horse for you, that they're aware of what the horse is telling you, because a lot of horses can be what we call girthy, and they do not like that pressure happening near their chest. So when I tie this, I'm going to tie it like a tie. So I'm going to have to get it a little bit tighter though, because this is a little short for you. All right, so I'm going to bring it up. Look out, Gail. I'm going to put it through.
I got the short straw.
She did. I'm going to put it through this loop up front. We're going to come around back and tuck it under, and then down and through, like a beautiful tie. And you can see this is very short. A lot of the times this will be longer and you can tuck it through. But once you have it here, you will have to tighten it up again. So when we have the Western saddle on, I would again warn my horse leader that I'm going to tighten it. I'll pull this front piece up, and then I'm going to tighten my tie so that the saddle stays in place. So very different than the English girth where we're just doing buckles, but this is how we put on our endurance and our Western saddle. They'll be cinched up the same way. So hopefully you got to learn a lot about Western tack and tacking, the differences on how we actually use the saddle and the bridle, and their different form and function compared to English riding.